Today, we're unpacking a really profound shift, both geographically and spiritually, found in Judges chapter 2. We're going to look at exactly how this ancient pattern of fading faith mirrors the heavy ethical dilemmas that, let's be honest, we still face in our professional lives today.
How quickly does faith fade? It's a haunting question, right? Before we uncover the dramatic answer that history provides, take just a second to like this explainer and hit that subscribe button for more content that fuels your spiritual growth. And hey, stick with me until the very end, because the modern-day examples of this slow fade are honestly gonna blow your mind.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. From Gilgal to Bochim, the spiritual geography of compromise. So we're looking at this massive, dramatic shift in Israel's history. It's a journey from a place of absolute, triumphant victory straight to a place of bitter weeping. On the left, we've got Gilgal. Now, Gilgal wasn't just some random campsite, it represented total surrender. It was this beautiful place of fresh beginnings where the whole reproach of their past in Egypt was literally rolled away and where they renewed their covenant with God. The high ground of wholehearted devotion, basically. But then, on the right, we have Bochim. And let me tell you, moving from Gilgal to Bochim was definitely not upward progress. It represents this tragic, agonizing distance between divine favor and human sorrow. It's exactly what happens when a generation just settles. When they settle for a comfortable, compromised faith built entirely on partial obedience.
This tragic shift reveals exactly why it was called Bochim. The word actually translates to the place of weepers. You see, the Israelites wept loudly here the moment they heard the angel of the Lord's rebuke. God reminded them, hey, my covenant with you is unbreakable. But he also pointed out their failure to tear down the foreign altars just like he'd instructed. And because of this partial obedience, those unconquered nations were going to become absolute thorns in their sides and their foreign gods a snare. I mean, sure, the tears they shed here were real, but as we're going to see, tears alone just aren't enough to stop a downward spiral.
Which brings us to Section 2. The cycle of Judges when memory fades.
Now we're transitioning into the era right after the death of Joshua. And man, this period shows us exactly what unfolds when a generation enjoys the fruit of earlier faith but completely fails to pass it on. We actually find one of the most sobering lines in the entire text here. Another generation arose who did not know the Lord. Think about that. Joshua lived an unwavering, totally faithful 110 years. But the generation that came after him, they'd only heard the stories. Stories hadn't become their own personal lived knowledge, and this lack of first-hand reverence quietly replaced holy devotion with, well, casual familiarity, and that just kicked the door wide open to all kinds of evil.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because it turns into this grim, tragic loop. Step 1, disobedience. The people just completely turn away. Step 2, distress and oppression. They get handed right over to plunderers. Step 3, deliverance. God, moved to pity, raises up a judge to save them. But then, look at step 4. This is the kicker. When that judge died, they reverted to deeper corruption, behaving even worse than their fathers did. It is a relentless, exhausting cycle of compromise.
Section 3. The cost of compromise. Modern echoes of Bochim.
So you might be asking, why does this matter to us today? Well, this slow fade isn't just some dusty Old Testament narrative. It plays out right now, in our professional lives, whenever faith and ethics are compromised for a quick buck. Just look at this massive number, 900,000 rand. This brings us to the absolutely heartbreaking story of a young couple, Chris and Luzon. They trusted a local developer who also went by Pastor Dan Chellen. They felt secure, because of his church leadership. But instead of getting their dream family home, they were dragged into an absolute nightmare. We're talking hidden costs, threats of eviction, and demands for a 100,000 rand gratitude gift just to delay being kicked out. Over 3 years, they lost a staggering 900,000 rand. That right there is the real-world devastation of partial obedience in the marketplace.
And sadly, the chaos doesn't stop there. Consider the wood glaze trading situation. Get this, the municipality actually sold the exact same plot of land to both the developer and the Evangelical Lutheran Church. The church goes ahead and builds their place of worship in completely good faith, only to end up facing over 400,000 rand in accumulated rates and the very real threat of losing their building. It's wild. But it's also a stark, painful reminder of the widespread collateral damage that happens when integrity is tossed aside for greed.
Moving on to Section 4, Profiles in Faithfulness, the Modern Gilgal.
Now, the story doesn't have to end in Bochim. We're going to look at some modern professionals who are acting as incredible counterexamples. People choosing wholehearted devotion over partial obedience.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the incredible growth represented by this number. Angus Buchan, a farmer from KwaZulu-Natal, completely refused to settle for partial commitment. His uncompromising message, calling men to regain their rightful place through respect, responsibility, and ditching their pride, resonated so deeply that his Mighty Men's Conference grew from just 240 guys in 2003 to nearly 200,000 attendees gathering in his fields by 2009. It is living proof that one generation's obedience can absolutely awaken the next.
And we see this exact same choice playing out in the legal profession too. On one side, we have the pursuit of justice, embodied by lawyers like Christopher Jeevers. He dedicates his career to international law and human rights, working tirelessly with families of apartheid victims, even when the cases are incredibly difficult or completely unpaid. Contrast that with a compromised system, where advocate Jeremy Gauntlet actually had to recuse himself from an Anglican church abuse review panel because separate abuse allegations emerged against him. It's a pretty stark reminder, isn't it? The choice between using your expertise for higher justice versus getting entangled in a system that rewards cleverness over actual integrity.
We also see this kind of profound courage in medicine. Back in the incredibly tense environment of 1980s Port Elizabeth, a young district surgeon named Dr. Wendy Orr began conducting postmortems and examining detainees. She found clear, undeniable evidence of police brutality. And you know what she did? She overcame immense personal fear to submit a 35-page sworn statement to the Supreme Court. She became the very first state-employed doctor to present that kind of evidence. She proved that a faithful professional treats people as individuals made in the image of God, not just as mere case numbers to be swept under the rug.
These profiles honestly give us an amazing blueprint for modern integrity in action. Whether it's the just lawyer taking those grueling, unpaid cases, the honest developer who refuses to cut corners even when nobody is watching, the compassionate doctor bravely speaking truth to her own colleagues, or the serving pastor breaking down social barriers, they all represent a modern Gilgal. They are flat out refusing to bow to the balls of greed and expediency, and they're choosing instead to act as true, faithful stewards of God's creation. Which brings us to our final part. Section 5, returning to full surrender, tearing down the altars.
So how do everyday workers like us actually apply these ancient lessons today? How do we halt that cycle of fading faith and rebuild true, wholehearted devotion? Well, it starts by becoming everyday deliverers. Look at Reverend Antoinette Erasmus. She graduated cum laude with a master's in theology at age 74, spending a literal lifetime challenging boundaries in service. Or look at Benedict Nkambule, a Salvation Army lieutenant. His primary healthcare clinic services at least 1,200 people every single month, feeding the hungry and befriending the lonely. They are living proof that truly turning away from compromise isn't just about weeping at Bochim. It reaches deep into the heart and actively shapes your daily walk through tireless, loving service.
This brings us to a really vital question for you and me. Will we pass the knowledge on with our lives, as well as our words? Take a second right now to examine your own altars of compromise. Are you settling for partial obedience in your workplace? What kind of legacy are you leaving for the next generation? Will they just hear the stories from you, or will they actually see the hard evidence of total surrender in the way you live and work?
I want to leave you with this really powerful excerpt from the Source's closing prayer. For the sake of the next generation, make us faithful. You see, we have the power to turn our places of weeping back into the triumph of Gilgal. But it really begs the question, what altars of compromise are you going to have to tear down tomorrow morning to make that happen? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and I'll see you in the next one.